Dearest Super Friends, this is Lady Elena from Technically a Conversation, and I've got some tea to spill. If you would like to receive that tea 1 week early, ad-free, and get some really cool stickers that are voted by you, then please subscribe to our Patreon. I really don't want to start an OnlyFans page, and your Tío Pepe from Sunland Park has already resorted to selling feet pics on the interwebs. And Lord knows what Isela will get herself into. Please help stop the madness. Lucky for you, all we are asking for is $2 a month as opposed to the $5 Tío Pepe is charging per toe. And who knows, we might throw in some feet pics in there for you for subscribing, if you're into that kind of thing, of course. But those will cost you more than the $2. Support us by logging into patreon.com/technicallyaconversation or check our show notes. Elmer McCurdy's story is both fascinating and tragic. His life and posthumous fame offer a mix of the Old West, crime, and morbid curiosity. His life was that of a minor outlaw who, due to a series of macabre events, achieved a form of postmortem fame far beyond his criminal activities. His story serves as a unique case study in the realms of criminal history, forensic science, and the ethics of death and entertainment. Join us as we introduce this wild, Wild West outlaw, how he became a mummified sideshow attraction, and how he ended up as a prop in a popular California funhouse, here on Technically a Conversation. Greetings. You're listening to Technically a Conversation, a podcast where we share an interesting topic or story with each other in the hopes you also find it interesting. I'm 1/3 of your hosts, Elena, and I'm joined, as always, by my preserved brother, Jose. How's everything going?
Good. Just taking some showers and formaldehyde to preserve myself.
That's good to know. How are things going for you with that?
It kind of burns my skin, but, it works. I can already see less wrinkles.
It's helping you stay young?
Yeah. Either that or I find a child to do those blood transfusions, like that one fucking crazy billionaire. I think his name is like Brian Johnson or something. That uses his son as a blood bag, pretty much.
Yes, I know. That's bad. And that kid, he poses with his dad, he's proud of it too.
Yeah, and the guy doesn't look very young. I think he's younger than me, but he looks older than I do.
Yeah, it's not preserving him at all. Maybe he should try your formaldehyde trick.
Formaldehyde always works. Plus, it gives me like a nice yellow kind of tint to my skin. It's nice.
It helps you glow from within.
Yep.
Well, things are going well for me.
Oh, how are things going with you? I was actually looking up to see if his name was Brian Johnson.
I don't remember his name, but I think you were the one that brought him up to me, and I was like, oh yeah, he doesn't look very, very young or preserved.
Yeah. Yeah, just look up the guy that uses his son as a blood bag, and you'll find them. But I want to say it was Brian Johnson because I think he had the same name as the singer from AC/DC.
Ah, okay. No, things are going well. My eldest is in driver's ed right now, and he seems to be enjoying that. And the youngest is still he's still doing t-ball, and then he's running around being a kid, playing outside in the sprinklers, how we used to, remember?
Yeah, drinking water from the water hose.
Yeah. You remember the slip and slide?
Yes.
I want to get one of those for him. I bet he would love it.
You know what? I haven't seen one in a long time. I wonder if they still even sell it.
I don't know. I mean, they're kind of dangerous. I remember we used to put a rock at the end so it wouldn't lift up, and you'd take it out before we would hit our head with the rock and shit.
Getting all the toritos all over our chests while we would jump in that fucking thing.
Well, yeah, all the little rocks and stuff on the floor. You would rub your chest or whatever all over that when you were sliding. It would hurt.
Yeah.
But it was still fun.
It was, yeah.
Hey, so what did you think about the assassination attempt on your favorite ex-president? Do you think it was staged to secure his vote, or do you think it was real?
First of all, I don't think that it was staged. I think that they could have done a better job staging it if that was their intent. You know, they could have used maybe some ketchup bags and just fired a gunshot or something.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't think anybody would have been the wiser if they would have heard the gunfire.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it was a Republican rally. How can you not expect for there to be people there with fucking guns? The people that go to those fucking things, I'm sure all have those fucking AR-27s or 57s or whatever the fuck semi-automatic weapon it was. So I'm not surprised. What I'm more surprised of is that it took this long for somebody to try and assassinate a political candidate at a rally.
That's actually true. I thought it was really weird that it's taken this long for something like that to happen. But the weird thing is that people saw this guy climb up on that building and they were telling the police and the FBI, the Secret Service, whoever was there, and nobody would listen. They didn't do anything about it. That was the weird thing, number one. And then weird thing number two is that guy's a horrible shot.
Actually, he's known for being a horrible shot because in high school, he tried joining some type of like rifle club or some shit. And he wasn't allowed to join because of what an awful marksman he was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could tell. Unfortunately, there was, I know for sure one person died.
Yeah, it was a firefighter that died. And then there were 2 other people that were injured.
Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
Very sad. But it was just kind of weird because even like the people behind him, some of them didn't even flinch or take cover. Like they just kind of like, I don't know. It was just a weird situation all around, I think.
It's because it is weird when you hear a gunshot like that. You don't really know what's going on. Like I've only been shot at once, or I'm sure I was not the intended target, but it was one time at El Paso that somebody had fired a gun. And like at first we were kind of like, because we were just outside smoking a cigarette. And at first we were like, what the fuck was that? Was that like a car that backfired or whatever? Or was that a firecracker? Like you really don't know because it's not something, at least to me, like I didn't grow up around guns. I've only ever fired a gun one time. And that was in Chihuahua with one of my uncles. I'm not familiar with the sound of gunfire. You're not familiar with the sound of firecrackers because fucking kids here are popping firecrackers all the fucking time. But yeah, it's not something that I personally grew up around. So it does take you by surprise if you're not used to it or if you're not expecting that.
Right. But even when everybody was like, take cover or whatever, there were still some people that were kind of like, huh? I don't know.
My shoes, let me get my shoes.
No, he was saying, let's fight. All right. Well, in the words of Tío Pepe, enough fucking around.
Yeah.
Are you ready to get started?
I was born ready, baby.
All right. Jose, pop quiz hotshot. Urban legend or not? Was there a body of a mummified man being used as a prop at a popular California fun park, Spook House?
I want to say that there was an urban legend about that.
Okay. There is an urban legend, but did it turn out to be true? I guess should I rephrase the question?
I want to say that it did, because I think we might have covered that in the urban legends episode.
I don't remember, and I did not listen to that episode.
It was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
I think we did that episode back in the 1800s.
Yeah. Well, the answer is true. There was an actual body being used in a California funhouse as a prop. Well, a mummified body. So that kind of takes away from my next question, which was, have you ever heard about this story before?
I have. I don't know all the details, but I want to say that we covered that. And I think there was also a dead body that was used in, I think it was Poltergeist or something like that. They didn't realize that it was a dead body until like afterwards.
Yeah, I believe it was they used skeletons or something like that. It was, well, the actor didn't know that it was an actual skeletal remains of a person, but the crew members knew because they, I guess, purchased it. I don't know if it's cheaper that way, but they purchased the skeleton knowing that it was, but the actor didn't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's messed up.
We live in a great world. This world is great.
Right? All right. Well, today's topics resources were gathered from an article written by Ella Morton titled How a Real Corpse Ended Up in a California Fun Park Spook House, an article written by the Atomic Redhead titled Tracing the Journey of a Mummified Outlaw, Elmer McCurdy to the Long Beach Pike, an article by Katie Dowd titled The Unbelievable True Story of the Real Body Found in a California Funhouse, and a YouTube video by the Oklahoman titled Outlaw to Mummy, How Elmer McCurdy Went from Oklahoma to the $6 Million Man and Back. Link in the show notes.
Show notes.
Now picture this. It's the Wild Wild West in the early 1900s. A fugitive by the name of Elmer McCurdy is surrounded by sheriff's deputies. He's trapped in an old barn. There wasn't anything he could do at this point but take a chug of his whiskey.
Yeah.
He might as well die as he lived, drunk. Gunfire rang through the Oklahoma air. After about an hour, deputies realized that McCurdy was not shooting back. They carefully approached the barn, and inside was a McCurdy, shot to death with a bullet wound to his chest. Finally, Oklahoma's most wanted outlaw had been stopped literally. Pahouska's mortician declared him dead on October 7th, 1911, embalmed the corpse, and waited for next of kin to declare him. He waited and waited some more, and there he would wait until 1916, when a young man would claim him as his brother. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's take a closer look at Mr. McCurdy and how we arrived at this point.
All right.
McCurdy was born in Washington, Maine in 1880. His mother, Sadie McCurdy, was an unwed 17-year-old girl. And to spare embarrassment, because in those days everyone was embarrassed about everything, she allowed her brother and sister-in-law to adopt him and raise him as their own. After 10 short years, her brother died of tuberculosis, and Sadie reclaimed her rightful title as mother, raised McCurdy, and even told him the truth that she in fact was his biological mother. Many speculate that this news affected him in such a way that it led him towards a downward spiral of alcohol and crimes, starting bar fights at just 15 years old. The recession dampened his expectations, so he moved west, where he spent time as a plumber, a miner, and then later a member of the military. This is where he took a liking to explosives. But what young guy doesn't like explosives? Am I right, Jose?
Yep. It's always a lot of fun setting shit on fire.
It is.
Especially when you're a kid. But I have a question, though.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's hard to imagine giving up your kid just because, it would bring shame to the family. Do you think that it would have been something that would have been easy for you to do? Like, let's say when you had your first son, said, you know what, let's just assume you weren't married. I'm having a son. I'm not married. Would you adopt them, Jose?
No, I mean, nowadays, no. Back in the day, maybe in that time frame where everybody looked down on you for something like that, maybe. But I would rather ask you than ask some stranger to adopt them.
Oh, of course. If the situation was reversed, I would ask you or my brother. I don't think I would take the child to like an orphanage or, have him put up with foster parents, because you never know how that kid's going to be raised. He might be raised MAGA for all I know. That would be terrible.
Yeah. I mean, this way, she had access to him. She was able to see him. She was still able to spend time with him. And either way, 10 years later, she still got to claim him as her son and tell him that she was really the biological mother. So I guess for her, I don't want to say that it worked out because it sucks that her brother died. But if I were in that time period, maybe. I don't know if I would have been as rebellious as I am right now. But I've been like, I don't give a fuck what people say.
I guess it is hard to place yourself in that time period with those morals and those standards that they had back then.
For sure. Well, getting back to McCurdy and his love of explosives, he wasn't very good at it. He would either use too much or too little of whatever makes explosives go boom.
Gunpowder?
I guess. Whatever makes explosives go boom. I don't know. McCurdy's the name. Robbery's his game. At one attempt of a robbery, he used way too much and the silver fused to the floor, so he was forced to leave the money and the safe behind. Pendejo. Speaking of pendejo, which means estúpid, McCurdy's last robbery attempt was a train that was rumored to contain $400,000. But he and his cronies got on the wrong train.
Hey, that's an honest mistake. That could have happened to anybody.
So it's safe to say that McCurdy wasn't really a smart man, but he did know what love was. I'm just kidding. That's Forrest Gump, just in case you didn't know who I was trying to imitate. Anyway, this was far from a love story. There is no love involved in the story, except for his love of explosives and money.
And his mother's love.
No, and whiskey.
Oh, and whiskey.
Yeah,
we have something in common. Me and that McCurdy guy.
Do you want to know how much McCurdy ended up robbing on that wrong train? I'll let you take a guess, Jose.
$275.
Close. Not. A watch, a gun, some whiskey, and a whopping $46.
Watches back then were expensive, so maybe you could have sold that watch for something. And the gun, too.
Maybe.
You could have gone to the RNC and try to sell the gun there.
Yeah, I guess. He could have. I don't know if that existed back then, but sure.
Yeah, that was the Republican Party.
Oh, I don't know. Never mind.
Well, actually, the Republican Party back then was pretty decent.
It's different than now, yeah.
Yeah, it's much different than now.
The train conductor reported the robbery the same day, and the bandits split up. McCurdy arrived at Revered Ranch, whiskey in hand. In his drunken stupor, he passed out in the hayloft, but was awakened to a group of sheriff deputies ordering his surrender. He tried shooting at them to ward them off, but we all know that McCurdy isn't really smart, and he was unmatched. The gun battle lasted about an hour, resulting in McCurdy's death. His lifeless body was handed over to the U.S. Marshals and then delivered to Johnson's funeral home located in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. And I'm probably saying that wrong, and I'm sorry. The funeral home was owned by Joseph Johnson, who waited for McCurdy's next of kin to reclaim the body, but no one ever showed.
Not even the mom?
No one ever showed.
Oh, sorry. That was pretty definitive, right?
I don't know if the mother was still alive at this point or she just didn't want anything to do with him. They didn't go into detail about that, but no one ever showed.
Oh, what did he do with his whiskey? Oh.
Well, he drank it.
Oh, okay.
And then he got drunk and then he got shot.
Okay, as long as it didn't go to waste.
Yeah.
Priorities, people, priorities.
Yeah, right? At that point, McCurdy should have been buried at the expense of the public, but Johnson saw it as an opportunity. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, me, I wouldn't, but other people would.
Yeah, not when it comes to a body. That's morbid.
Yeah, I know. Before we find out what Johnson did and how McCurdy ended up at a funhouse, let's take a short ad break. And as a reminder, to skip these ads, subscribe to our Patreon.
Woo! Look at you pivoting there.
There you go. It's all those years of sales, baby.
Always be closing, baby. Always be closing. ABCs.
Hey Murderitas, I'm Danica.
And I'm Shannon.
We are the mother-daughter hosts of Murder and Mimosas,
A true crime podcast that strives to focus on lesser-known cases.
We personally think these episodes go down a little bit better with a mimosa.
You sip, we share.
So grab yours and get ready because every Saturday at brunch time is a new episode.
You can listen to us on any podcast platform.
I'm Rob Kirkup, and I host the How Haunted podcast. Each episode, we delve deep into the bloody history, and chilling ghost stories of one of the scariest places in the world. There's regular special episodes too, such as episodes that I record on location. There's episodes where I take you along with me on a paranormal investigation and you hear the actual audio from that night. And of course, we do something suitably spooktacular for Halloween. Previous Halloween specials have included a ghost walk of York and the ghosts of Jack the Ripper's Whitechapel. You can find How Haunted wherever you get your podcasts. So why not join me, and together, let us ask the question, how haunted?
Hey, do you like to hear about corporate crimes, major disasters, and some of the biggest scandals in history?
With a little sports and pop culture thrown in?
Well, then we have the podcast for you. I'm Laura.
And I'm Tom.
And we host the Tell Me About podcast.
Every Wednesday, we tell you a story you only thought you knew.
Like, did you know that the deadliest shipwreck in history is not the one that you think?
Or how did parkgoers survive the most dangerous amusement park in the U.S.?
Did you ever wonder how Enron almost got away with the worst corporate crime in history?
Or maybe what it's like to be in witness protection.
We answer these burning questions and so much more on the Tell Me About podcast, where two nerdy friends deep dive random topics and have a lot of fun in the process.
You'll be surprised how many smart people drop the ball, or how many people think they're smarter than everyone else.
Find us at the Tell Me About podcast on Apple or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back.
We're back!
Jose, did you participate in any train robberies gone wrong during the break?
Well, there was only 2 of them, but they both went bad.
Oof, 2?
Yeah. I'm also not very smart like Mr. Purdy.
McCurdy?
Yeah.
Mr. Purdy?
What was his name? Elmer Purdy or something?
McCurdy?
Oh, Elmer McCurdy.
Elmer, like Elmer's glue. Elmer McCurdy.
Elmer Purdy McCurdy.
Well, before the break, we were discussing Elmer Purdy McCurdy's early life and how he wound up dead and unclaimed. Now that I've given you a little more background on this, Jose, does this story still not seem familiar to you, or does it seem a little more familiar?
It doesn't. I don't think that when we talked about it in the Urban Legends episode, if we did talk about it, I don't think we really went into the details. I think it was just more one of those fun, quick facts or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely did not know the history behind it.
Ah, okay. Johnson pumped McCurdy's body full of arsenic. He displayed him at his funeral home and called the exhibit The Embalmed Bandit, or The Bandit That Wouldn't Give Up, and charged 5 cents a viewing, although some articles claimed it was free. But yeah, right, I'm pretty sure he was charging for that. The arsenic, now banned for obvious reasons, kept this 5'3" criminal's skin looking and feeling like saddle leather, but his features remained remarkably lifelike. There will be pictures in the show notes if you're curious, and they're all in the articles that I mentioned earlier. I couldn't find any other article mentioning this, but the one written by the Atomic Redhead claims that the mummified body was so stiff it could stand up on its own. Allegedly, the Johnson children once placed roller skates on the poor bastard and pushed his body around to scare other children.
That's so fucked up.
That's so fucked up, huh?
Yeah, it's so fucked up.
I know, it is, and I couldn't help but laugh too.
Hey, at least his family had a sense of humor, though.
That's true. Poor guy, man.
And this was the Johnson family?
Yeah, the mortician.
The mortician, okay.
Yeah. For 5 years, McCurdy was a tourist attraction, and many carnival workers offered huge sums of money for this attraction, as mummies were a hot ticket item, but Johnson held out for McCurdy's family to claim him. So I guess that he could continue to make his little side hustle. I don't know. In the fall of 1916, 2 men claiming to be the brothers of McCurdy showed up at Johnson's funeral home and told the funeral director that it was the wish of their parents to be reunited with their son again. With the permission of the sheriff and county attorney, they packed him up in a coffin and got him ready for shipment to San Francisco. I'm guessing that this guy just wanted to get rid of the body already because in one of the articles, the brother's name was Mr. Aver. And the brother in the other article was mentioning that that guy was just a friend who went by Mr. Wayne. So in one article, they're brothers. In another article, they're just friends. But either way, it's last name Aver, last name Wayne. Nothing to do with McCurdy.
Yeah. But maybe if he showed up with law enforcement, like you said, he was like the sheriff, and who else was with them?
No, he didn't show up with law enforcement, but with the permission of the sheriff and the county attorney, they allowed this Mr. Aver to take his body away because he claimed that he was the brother.
Oh, okay. I would have been like, nah, dog, you need to show some ID.
Exactly. Either way, it doesn't appear that anyone did any fact checking because within a couple of weeks, they had McCurdy on display as the Oklahoma Outlaw within the Great Patterson Carnival Show. I don't know how you say this. I don't know if it's Osage Hills or Osage Hills. Received word of this months later. His latest stop was a carnival in West Texas where people would pay a few cents to see the mummified body of Mr. Elmer McCurdy. The supposed brothers were nothing but a bunch of peddlers.
Yeah, that's what I imagined.
They were the only ones smart enough to say that they were family members, so. After this, details are a little vague, but it goes something like this. A story published in the Pomona Progress in March of 1921 documents McCurdy's visit to its town as part of the Al G. Barnes Circus, titled, "He lived a hard life and died a hard death. Now he is tougher than ever." Well, yeah, the arsenic made his skin leather-like, so he's pretty tough.
And he's stiff enough to go roller skating, apparently, as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I could just imagine him wearing those little shorts that people used to wear back in the day when they would roller skate.
Oh my God, remember that time that you tried rollerblading?
Yeah, and I fell on the rocks.
You fell on the rocks and you were there for like an hour, and I was like, oh my God. I don't know what to do. I was like, are you okay? You're like, no. Should I go and get an adult, or are we going to get in trouble for this shit? So I just stayed out there with you for an hour until you decided to get up.
It was not an hour, but I know for sure it was like a good 10 minutes. Well,
oh, it seemed like an hour.
I think my body was rebooting and I was doing like a status check, like to make sure that everything was intact. No bones were broken. No, I didn't have any bleeding organs or anything.
Yeah, nothing was bleeding internally or like hopefully, luckily for sure.
Yeah.
You seem okay still, so.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine now.
Yeah, I just know I was like, man, should I go and tell a parent or not? Are we going to get in trouble for this? Probably. I'm pretty sure you're going to get yelled at. And I'm probably going to get yelled at because I'm the one that lent you the rollerblades. So I was like, no, you know what? I'll just stay out here with him, make sure he's okay.
Yeah, I would have surely have gotten the belt for even going out there and falling. So
I know, right? That's why I was like, I'll just stay here with him.
Yeah.
All right. So 10 years later, the Los Angeles Times. The Los Angeles Times published an article that included him in Fun Things to Do This Weekend section.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like a blast.
Right? For 10 cents, those who were brave enough and curious enough could see McCurdy in his ornate coffin. Around this time, a traveling entertainer, Mr. Lewis...
I'm sorry. The first thing that came to my mind is like, for 10 cents, you could see Mr. McCurdy in all his glory. For 20 cents, you can tickle his taint with a feather.
Oh my God, no. That is terrible.
Yeah, sorry. My mind goes to dark places.
That was very dark. I wouldn't want to tickle anybody's taint.
With a feather.
For that little money. Yeah. Oh, man.
Sorry.
I don't even know where oh, yeah, I remember now. Around this time, a traveling entertainer, Mr. Louis Sonny, I think, purchased Mr. McCurdy from another carny, according to his son, Dan Sonny. They covered the body in wax because the arsenic, I guess, wasn't enough anymore to keep him
It was wearing off.
preserved. And added him to their villains display at their wax museum. By World War II, people had grown tired of these oddities, and McCurdy ended up in storage.
Just stood him up in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, pretty much. This poor guy did more traveling in death than in life. That sucks, huh? To be treated like an object just because nobody claimed this guy.
That is so awful. I mean, I know that he was a bad criminal, like bad because he was bad at it, but I mean, nobody deserves that.
No. So if that wasn't enough, McCurdy collected dust for about 20 years before he made a cameo in some B movie called She Freak that premiered in 1967. And no, I did not watch the movie, but I sort of want to now. But it just kind of seems just as bad as the Velocipaster, if not worse. I don't know. Just saying. Apparently, his gaunt visage was briefly shown in a psychedelic montage of faces. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think that that's still like bad. You know, you shouldn't be desecrating a soul that way, or a soul. You shouldn't be desecrating a corpse like that. Despite like how bad you were, like you shouldn't be paraded around like a fucking oddity or something. You know, I think that's awful.
I agree. Well, even worse, eventually the body would end up at the Pike in Long Beach, where his naked body would be covered in red fluorescent paint that glowed in the dark and was hung up by a noose around his neck in the Laugh in the Dark Funhouse. It's kind of gross to think of how many people brushed up against this corpse without even knowing that it was an actual person. Well, at one time was an actual person. That is until 1976. On the set of the popular $6 Million Man TV show, crews were setting up for a shoot at the Laugh in the Dark Funhouse. One of the crew members either ran into McCurdy just a little too hard or maybe pulled its arm just a little too rough, and its arm fell off.
No. No. No.
No worries. Just grab some crazy glue and glue that sucker back on. Or so he thought, until he noticed a very real looking bone sticking out from the limb.
No.
Not sure how long he freaked out over this, but he managed to compose himself enough to call the local authorities. McCurdy was once again shipped out to the coroner's office, but this time in LA. Determined to find out who this was, everyone agreed that the body looked ancient, but unfortunately, this wasn't their first time encountering something like this. I mean, I guess they're in LA, they encounter mummified corpse all the time. I don't know, because they use them on sets. I don't know. Detectives tracked down several leads, and the coroner performed another autopsy. Guess what was still in his chest?
The bullet.
The copper jacket of the bullet, which stopped being manufactured several years ago. This, along with the embalming technique, led the coroner to guess that the body was from the early 20th century. Within weeks, detectives tracked down leads and determined it to be that of Elmer McCurdy. Photos were compared to images in the University of Oklahoma archive. The coroner's office in LA held onto him until 1977 because, again, no next of kin claimed him, so they decided to ship him back to Oklahoma, where he finally got a resting place. His tombstone reads, Elmer McCurdy, shot by sheriff's posse in Osage Hills on October 7th, 1911, returned to Guthrie, Oklahoma from Los Angeles County, California for burial April 22nd, 1977. And that's how a real-life mummified person ended up in a funhouse in California. Any final thoughts, Jose?
I think I did a good job of expressing them throughout the episode. But, oh, man. I don't know, I just feel so bad for him.
For real, man. That sucks.
You know, just thinking about like myself, you know, like I honestly don't care where they bury me. Like when I die, like they could bury me in the backyard or whatever, or like, what's it called? Like when they incinerate you?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of, oh my gosh, now I forgot the word. Ashes. When they incinerate you.
When they ash you.
When they ash. Oh my gosh, why can't I remember that word? I don't know.
It happens when you're podcasting. You forget words.
Hey, Google, what's the word when they incinerate you when you die?
Word cremate. On
Cremate.
the website vocabulary.com, they say, the word cremate is most often used to describe the ceremonial burning of dead bodies.
Thank you.
There you go. Yes, so I don't care if they cremate me or whatever, but I mean, don't fucking have me in a fun house or something, or have me on display so people can tickle my taint with a feather. And I think I called it Tate and not taint.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that ever happened.
Oh, okay.
Since we said taint, special shout out to all our super duper friends: Sophia, Natasha, Eric, Angie, Eli, Katya, Madtown Charity, Victor, Christine, Josh, and our newest addition, who is last but not least, Eric number 2. Not saying that you are number 2, but you are our second Eric.
We have 2 Erics now.
Yay! If you also want to be super duper and help support the show, get the episodes a week early, ad-free, get your name shouted out on the show, and receive some really cool stickers from us, check us out at patreon.com/technicallyaconversation or check the show notes.
Show notes.
It's only 6 cents a day or $2 a month. You can't even buy a mummified corpse for that much or tickle its taint. So come on, you know you want to.
Hold on, do they want to tickle its taint or join our Patreon?
Join our Patreon.
We won't judge you if you still want to tickle its taint, though.
Yeah, no judgment here. Judgment-free zone. And with that, we hope you enjoyed the show and join us again next week. If you're enjoying the show, leave us a review, tell a friend, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Follow us on the socials at GreetingsTAC, email us at greetingstac@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 915-317-6669 if you have a story about a mummified body to share with us. You know we like it weird anyway, so.
That's what she said.